Why shouldn't you do the carnivore diet? Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Westman, and welcome to my channel where I review and debunk nutritional information online. Well, in this video, the internet and TikTok and all these new social media venues are so popular. People are coming to me today saying they saw me on TV. And no, I'm not on network TV. I'm on YouTube, and you're playing it on your TV, which causes some, and I find it funny. So I'm not Dr. Oz or someone on the super network of TV, but I may be playing on your TV right now. So here it gets confusing because this is a fellow who does the carnivore diet, at times being kind of sarcastic about why he does it and why you shouldn't, because all of the great things, that you might get, or anyway, so you have to be careful about the clickbaiting, and I'm afraid we may do that a little bit here and there, but I try to, on the video itself, to be reasonable and rational. And I think there are some points here that are important to learn. So 3 reasons you should not do the carnivore diet. Be sure to wait till the end of the video where I give my final thoughts. Enrollment for the sugar and food addiction course is now open. Join Dr. Vera Tarman, an internationally renowned expert on sugar and food addiction, to learn how and why we become addicted to sugar and how to break free from long-standing self-sabotaging behaviors so you can feel confident around food and in yourself. Click the link in the description to learn more.
There are good reasons you shouldn't try the carnivore diet. And as someone who is doing the carnivore diet for 12 months, I think I'm in a good position to be telling you why you might want to give it a miss.
Give it a miss, translate that to not do it, not try it.
I'm now devoted to this way of eating. I've seen a lot of improvements over the last 12 months, not least of which is the change in my appearance, which you can see compared on screen right now. But carnivore might not be for you. First off, guys, please smash the like button and also subscribe. This really helps out the channel, and I am grateful for your support. Let's get into it. So why might you want to give the carnivore diet a miss? And the first reason for that is it's restrictive, or at least that's how you're going to feel at first.
Yeah, so restriction is an interesting concept, the idea that you're not eating lots of foods and you'll miss them at first, but that's been turned around other ways, and a lot of people find that they don't have to worry about what to eat because there aren't as many options, and I think that is based on the individual. Some people like very difficult ways of eating, having something new every day, spending hours in the kitchen. Some people like things very simple and just refueling. Food just becomes a fuel, like going to the gas station and filling your car with the same gas over and over. But if you're fixing a metabolic problem and you're reversing diabetes, and so if you're stuck in a medical condition where you're monitoring your finger pricks or a continuous glucose monitor that is pretty restrictive. So if you have a medical condition that's restrictive, then a diet like this, which is possibly the answer to reverse it, doesn't seem so restrictive in terms of your entire lifestyle, does it?
And this restriction feeds into many of the other areas that I'll talk about. Carnivore is a way of eating that eliminates ultra-processed and plant-based foods. And let's face it, these days the majority of what we eat is ultra-processed or plant-based or both.
I have to agree that there's a commonality in the healthy eating approaches, healthy lifestyles, and that is the absence of a large amount of the sugar and ultra-processed food that's in the middle of our grocery stores in these aisles. And so I have to think that's partly why many different diets can be healthier than the typical American diet, and yet you can't say one is necessarily better than another until you have side-to-side, head-to-head clinical trials, although you can measure everything in your own health to see along the way, of course.
So when you first go carnivore, it's going to feel super restrictive. And what this means, for the beginning at least, is you are going to experience cravings. And whether you go cold turkey, which I wouldn't recommend, or you transition into carnivore, you're going to experience those cravings either way.
The cravings are a hallmark of an addiction, a withdrawal process. And craving foods is common. You'll crave what you've been eating, but it's remarkably fast. So I don't know, I do it a different way where I tell people to stop all of the carbs on the same day so that you're like taking a Band-Aid off really quickly. To me, I've found that people tell me it's easier that way than to gradually reduce. But again, it depends on the person. And if you know you're eventually going to do or get to a carnivore type of diet, you might do it slowly over time. But the method that I've learned in a clinical setting is to take the carbs all away all at once, get over the withdrawal syndrome, and it might be just a day or two. And some people don't have cravings at all. That's an important thing. If you're just learning about this, you don't know if you should try it or not. Most people don't have any of the keto flu or keto adaptation symptoms, the headache, fatigue. Most people don't have those symptoms.
And you can get over these, but I'm not going to pretend it's easy. It's hard because unknowingly you've had an addiction to sugar and ultra-processed foods your entire life.
You know, I was interviewing Chris Palmer recently, who's the psychiatrist at Harvard, who has one of the metabolic psychiatry units. There are two at universities, one at Harvard, one at Stanford. Shubhani Sethi is the professor at Stanford with a metabolic psychiatry unit using keto diets. And as I was talking to Chris, Dr. Palmer, I mentioned that my approach is to tell people that it's going to be easy, don't worry about the symptoms. And he took actually no carb life's approach, which is he says, I tell people it's going to be hard. I tell people that you're going to have to make a big change and a big commitment. And I asked him why he did that. And he said, well, because then people come back and say, it was a lot easier than you said it was going to be. So that's a different style of getting people to start. And there's a book written by a Chilean man who has the approach of just stay away from carbs for 29 days. And on the 30th day, you can have anything you want. It's kind of brilliant because a lot of people worry about giving up carbs. Is it going to have to be forever? You know, am I ever going to go back to my fruit or my bread? And so in this book, he says on the 30th day, you can have whatever you want. The brilliance of it is by day 30, when you're down 10 to 15 pounds and you feel that there's no hunger and you don't want those foods, you don't eat those foods. But it takes away the fear of never being able to eat those foods again. Kind of a brilliant strategy there. So there are a lot of ways to get started.
Foods that are designed to be addictive. And now that you need to give them up, it's like giving up any addictive drug. You've programmed your body to need and expect it, and now you're depriving your body of it. And even if you get over the cravings, you're going to be hit with the next realization. It's boring. When you're used to eating the rainbow every day, your first feeling about eating carnivore will be that it's boring. And in context, your feelings make sense. However, after a while on carnivore, your context will change and those feelings will dissipate. But you will definitely feel like you're missing out on some of the exciting foods at the outset of your carnivore journey. So that's the restrictive point. The second reason you might want to give the carnivore diet a miss is that you won't have to overthink anymore. Right now, you probably have to think a lot about balance.
The psychology of the sarcasm here.
Think a lot about what's for dinner tonight, what's for dinner tomorrow. I can't make them the same. I can't do this. I can't do that. And thinking about how to mix all the meals up and make things interesting. And you're worried and overthinking about counting calories and measuring macros. And you want to make sure you get the right amount of this, that, and the other. And there's just none of that on carnivore. You just eat. And when you're no longer hungry, you stop eating.
Well, it even gets worse. So that some people who come to me and they're basically healed, they've lost weight or diabetes goes away, they still want to monitor. It's the craziest thing to me. But I've never had diabetes. I've never gotten in the habit of checking blood sugars. So there are a lot of people who still want to know what the blood sugars are, even though they're normal. And so I understand that. And it may be because you've been told you have to count things and all that. But his point is well taken, that you don't have to worry too much about all these things. If you eat a similar set of foods, that takes away more decisions that you might have had to make.
And so there's no overthinking. And why is this negative? We've been groomed as humans to feel like nutrition should not be this easy. And so not needing to overthink can be uncomfortable for many people. Overthinking is what gives us a sense of control over our lives, whether it's benefiting us or not. And the third reason that you might want to give the carnivore diet a miss is socialization. When you first start the carnivore way of eating, you might feel some social isolation or lack. And that's because we've tended to build our social relationships around eating and drinking. You'll often hear, let's catch up for lunch, or let's go for a drink. It's less common to hear, let's go for a hike, or let's go to a movie, without the expectation of food and drinks at either end. And even if you go for drinks or to a restaurant where you can consume something that's on plan, at first it's going to be difficult. You'll stand out among your peers. You'll probably get peppered with questions. You'll see your friends eating those fudge sundaes. And you might even have some friends pressuring you to just have one. It won't hurt. And you will get over these things.
Yeah, but I hear that a lot, honestly, that even with a lower carb, keto, not necessarily carnivore, these are very similar, so that people may watch and say, why aren't you having the blank, or just a little bit of carbs, whatever it might be, won't hurt, that sort of thing. The social pressure is something that's real, and people work through it in different ways. Honestly, though, if you're feeling better, you've reversed diabetes, you've been told things that haven't worked for so many years, most people can figure this out. And even some people become leaders or super users that other people start following you. So, but if you're not wanting the attention, that sort of thing, there are ways. At a recent meetings, people said, well, do what I did when I was a child, which is I just move things around on my plate and I don't eat them. So it looks like I've eaten my dinner. I didn't think about that when I was a kid and didn't have food that I liked. But so you can, avoid attention by taking the carbs, not eating them, just leaving them on your plate. And most people really don't care. I mean, especially if you're looking better, getting healthy. But the strict carnivore means that you would, just eat the meat, or what, depending on what carnivore diet you were doing, other variations. You wouldn't have the desserts. You would, at first it's a bit of an adjustment.
In short order, you'll be able to go out with your friends and socialize without feeling pressure or cravings. It will just take some time and adjustment. In my experience, it's about 4 to 8 weeks to get over the hump. But you might not want to deal with those things, and I understand that. But if you can stick to this for just 4 to 8 weeks, it's well worth it. You'll no longer feel like you're restricting anything. You'll always look forward to your steak, your bacon, and your eggs. And you'll enjoy not having to think so much about every meal. And you'll enjoy socializing without ever feeling tempted by the food or drinks that you feel like you can't live without now. As an example of my eating plan, every day I eat 10 to 12 eggs, scrambled and topped with 600 grams of ground beef. I only eat once a day, in the mornings, but you can eat when and as many times as you need to. And the important thing to remember is if you stick with this, you'll lose weight, but you'll also see other health improvements like reduced pain from conditions like arthritis, reduced inflammatory oral conditions like gum disease, bleeding gums, and bad breath, strength improvements, improved ability for your body to pack on muscle, better sleep, better focus and concentration, better decision making, and reverse metabolic conditions like type 2 diabetes.
Well, I think this is true. These issues are true for any kind of diet that's different than what people are typically eating, right? It's going to seem restrictive because you're not having all of the, going out to the local Chinese place or Mexican and having all of the range of chips and bread, that sort of thing. Also, the idea of not worrying about things. This is a theme in addictions in general, that you can't imagine not doing the behavior because you've done it. It becomes a source of comfort, like the worry about what food to have. Remember Deal a Meal, where you could just swap things out and it told you what you could eat? But this is a simpler way to go about it. And then the social issues are fascinating, and again, like he says, most people will work through it. But if someone goes into a restaurant, and there are all sorts of places now, it's very popular to have a vegan option or plant-based, and you can eat a carnivore or a low-carb diet just about any restaurant, even if there's no specific menu item. You just ask for the modification, or if the meal has carbs on it, you just don't eat it. And I know that it seems wasteful, and if you were grown up in the clean plate club, where as a child you were rewarded with praise if you ate everything on your plate, it's going to seem weird to leave something on the plate. But the food distribution and it's a bigger problem than just not eating the bun if it's given to you on a certain meal that you're going to. So I kind of like this deep dive into the idea that the food list is simple. I can give you that food list, but it's not always a simple or easy thing to do in your environment, either food environment or a social environment. So I think it's a good video. And remember, I'm calling for more research on carnivore diets to be published before I can make an academic proclamation about them. We need to have more studies directly looking at people who self-describe as carnivore, and I'm hopeful that those will happen. I hope that's helpful, and if you like, please like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. I'm putting new information out on Wednesdays and Fridays. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and check out adaptyourlifeacademy.com.